I would probably say, you know, the people that came with. You know, obviously I didn't make this decision on my own. I made the decision kind of with my family, and I also made the decision with my extended family, you know, the coaches. We had talked about coming to Penn State, you know, as a staff. And then, you know, I don't know if we've talked about this in the past or not, but Penn State was sending a plane, and I said, send another one, and 16 people and their families, not immediately, but afterwards, we got on those planes and never went back. You know, so obviously there was some conversation ahead of time. You can't do that, but I knew we were going to need to get here with as late as it was in the process, especially when it comes to recruiting, and we were going to have to hit the ground, you know, running. So I guess my point to you is, you know, my head coaching style is I don't really do anything on my own. You know, we make decisions as a group. I want input from the players. I want input from the staff, and then ultimately I got to make the best decision for everybody. But you know, I think we all came here kind of with, you know, with a vision, and the coaches that are still part of that group, that core group of guys that have been with us the whole time. You know, I think that we all shared that vision probably together, and like always, I think that the core vision hasn't changed. But there's been tweaks along the way. There's been adjustments along the way. There's been growth along the way. There's been a better institutional knowledge of Penn State. There's been a better community knowledge of Penn State. That you take all that information and then you kind of pour it all together from that point. What you knew coming in, what you learned once you got here, and then, you know, the core plan, I guess is what I would say.
How far are you from the vision you had from getting to where you thought you need to be?
I think we're headed in the right direction. I feel like we still have a lot to do, really, in a lot of different areas. You know, I think we're probably in some areas probably a little bit further ahead than we thought, and I think in other areas we probably are lagging. But overall, you know, I think if, you know, the average football fan out there, or the local diehard, or the local beat writer, I think most people would probably say we're probably ahead of schedule in what they would have initially thought. But I like where we're at. But I'm one of these guys. As soon as we kind of complete a task, I'm on to the next task, which rubs people the wrong way. Sometimes the staff rubs the administration wrong, because I just don't know if we have time to be kind of celebrating the victories. I'm kind of built to move on to the next thing, and I got to be reminded sometimes of that, you know, to say thank you, let everybody know how much we appreciate it, but then also we got to get going, because I'm constantly thinking about the teams that we're competing with. They're not waiting for us, you know, they're still progressing forward. So that's kind of how my mind works. I want everything fixed yesterday. I want everything, you know, with a real strong foundation and growing exponentially, you know, and I'm never really kind of satisfied. That's kind of how I'm built.
Where does that come from? 'Cause you've always been that way.
Is it just psychosis? Is that how you describe it? I don't know. You know, I've always been very driven. I've always been passionate. I think you guys have heard me say that before. It's a strength and also a weakness. I get that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's things that my mom instilled in me. I don't know if it's things that you know, I kind of grew up, you know, seeing. I'm not really sure, but I've always been pretty driven. Even in sports, I wasn't always the most talented guy, but I was pretty driven. Became more driven in school. In college and in grad school. Needed to be more driven when I was younger in school, but I've always been fairly driven and motivated.
Is it a challenge passing that on to your staff?
I'm sorry?
Is it a challenge passing that on to your staff or your players?
Well, I don't know if you necessarily have to pass those things on to your staff or your players. I do think the team takes on a little bit of the identity as the head coach. I do think that happens, but I don't ever want our players or staff to try to be me, just like I can't try to be Billy or Joe or whoever else. We all got to stay true to ourselves, and we got to lead that way. I think if you're not intentional with how you do things, and if you're not really true to who you are, people will see through that. So I just want Sean Spencer to be the best Sean Spencer. I want Trace McSorley to be the best Trace McSorley. And sometimes that's my job as the head coach with the players, is to point out areas of strength and to build on those, and sometimes it's areas that they can grow, so you try to do that delicately. But yeah, it's not like I necessarily need the players to take on that. That's my own demon. That's my own blessing and demon.
Nittanyville put their tents up a couple days ago. There's been some bad weather. What can you say about the Nittanyville tradition?
Yeah, it's really been cool. Something I'd never really experienced before coming here. I think we're going over. I think Fumi and the girls are going over tomorrow to deliver cupcakes. I think I'm going over after the radio show. We try to go over each night to let these guys know how much we appreciate them. Football is important here. And I think we understand our place at the university. It's about the university. It's about academics. It's about education. It's about it's about the law school. It's about all that stuff. So we understand we're pretty far down on that pecking order. But I do think football is important here, and I think it's important because of it's one of those things that brings a community together, and that's at the high school level, college level. I'm biased as a football coach. I believe that football brings communities to get together like nothing else. I see it when I go out to high school football games, which is one of my favorite things to do. You see all the cars parked down the side of the road, people walk into the game, and there's no Catholic or Jewish on Friday or Saturday nights. There's no black or white. There's that team, those teams' colors, and that community, and that's special. I think that's something that's very unique to our country. I understand kind of where we're at, on this campus, and we'll never be more than that. But I also understand the importance of our program, what it does for the community, and what it does, for the university as well. I don't study these things, but I'd be interested to know, what does it do for a university to be on primetime television and being able to show all the wonderful things that our campus has to offer? What does it mean for a university when College Game Day and ESPN comes and showcases our university? It was pretty cool, and I don't know if you can put a price on that, but there's obviously tremendous value in it, and we understand our role in it.
James, you got a lot of young guys who are going to play Saturday night. Some, it'll be their last, Trace being one of those guys. Have you thought about that at all this week? And then with Trace in particular, what stands out about him in the big games, in the whiteouts and the Fiesta Bowls and the Rose Bowls?
Yeah, I think from the young guy perspective, we've had a lot of them, in the stadium at whiteouts before. A lot of them were in the stands as recruits. The vets, we've had some success. You look at our last couple whiteouts, we've been pretty successful. We've been able to feed off of the crowd. We've been able to elevate our game and take it to the next level. Trace is a guy that's been great in big games. One of the things I put up in the team meeting today is, I think there's tremendous value in that this team's been tested and had to deal with adversity. I mean, you think about how many games all the way back to Central Florida, how many games this team has won in the fourth quarter or won in overtime. I mean, you could name game after game, Minnesota, Iowa. I mean, you can go on and on and on, App State, and there's value in that. There's tremendous value in having to overcome adversity. You grow from that exponentially. I believe that. And then obviously when you got a guy like Trace McSorley that's been kind of the leader in a lot of those games and a lot of those wins, it helps. It's a lot of confidence when that guy goes on the field leading your unit. And not just for our offense. He impacts our whole team, offense, defense, and special teams. So I think we're excited about the opportunity. We got a tremendous challenge against maybe what I'd make the argument maybe the most talented roster in college football. We got a tremendous challenge, and we're going to have to play well. But I like our team, and I like our chances.
How do you grow the trust relationship between you and new assistants? You know, how do you get, I'm sure everyone that you hire you trust, but there's a difference between, you know, having Brent Pry around forever and having a new guy around. How do you get everyone to be Brent Pry in your trust bank, and how does that change on a week like this?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because I think the point you're making is no different than in a head coach to assistant coach relationship, no different than a husband and a wife, no different than a friend or other family member. You truly don't know how strong that relationship is until adversity hits. You know, how are those guys going to react on the sideline when times get tough? How are those guys going to react in the office when times get tough, or out at practice, or so on and so forth? So, you know, I think, you know, that's where I think adversity is really important in building and growing relationships. So, yeah, Brent Pry, who I go way back with, obviously we've built that trust and that rapport over a number of years. I would say that most of the assistants that we hire, very few of them we hire without previous relationships. I mean, Tyler Bowen played for us, coached with us. There's a long relationship there. Tim Banks, there was a long existing relationship there. So I try not to go outside of that circle a whole lot, because I think you're taking on undue risk when you do that, because once again, you never truly know how that person's going to react until times get tough. So I'm going to try to hire people that I've already had those experiences with. Every once in a while, you're going to have to go outside the circle, but that's where you lean on other people that you trust, that you know care about you and care about Penn State, and are going to tell you the truth. Because we've all been in a position where you're about to hire someone and they get an unbelievable recommendation. Why? Why? Because the last place is trying to get rid of them. So, you know, the recommendation is only valuable if it's coming from someone that you know cares about you and your family and your program and the institution. They're the most valuable recommendations. The rest of them, they don't really matter to me a whole lot. You know, I'm not a big believer in references or resumes, because why am I going to call, Ben, why am I going to call who you tell me to call? Like, you know, if your mom is your reference, I know what she's going to say about you. Just like I saw, is she on Twitter?
Yeah, that was her.
That was her.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the glasses.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I saw it. But I responded, but then, Chris, we're having a conversation here. I responded, but then I didn't get anything back.
I'm sure she was a little shook.
Yeah, it's awesome.
James, have you adjusted your outlook or approach towards the redshirt rule now that you're through 4 games?
No, I wouldn't say adjust. I'd say we kind of had a model that we were going in, you know, to the season with, and how we were going to handle some things. But like I mentioned to you guys before, that was going to evolve based on how a guy played. If a guy played really well and warranted more reps, then we would adjust. If a guy showed that he maybe wasn't ready to green light from that point on, then we would keep the plan as it's been. And for the most part, I think it's pretty much stayed like that, where we're thinking 4 games. But again, based on injuries and other things, that could change. You know, that could change. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's, you know, the model has changed, but each situation will be handled based on how they play and then how we do as well. You know, how we do as well in terms of staying healthy.